Good evening, everybody. Going ahead and letting you all in as we all begin, I suppose, crowding in. Welcome to APA Topics, In-Text Citations, Reference, Pages, and Formatting. I am your host for the evening, Augie Murado. My co-host, who should be logging in shortly, if he is not already in, is Tony DeSanto. We are both writing tutors here at the Academic Support Center. Tony is also an adjunct instructor in English here at Aurora. Some of you may have taken one of his classes or be in one at the moment. I also, in addition to tutoring here, teach at College of DuPage, and I'm working on a dissertation in English. Screen text stories is the subject. I've gone ahead and dropped a message in the chat, so video is already recording, as you know. Please make sure your mics are silent, make sure your cameras are off as we go through. And yeah, just a few more people are slowly filtering in. That'll be part and parcel for the first few minutes of what's going on. So any questions, please direct them to the chat. Tony, my moderator, will be happy to answer them. If I see anything pop up on my end, I'll be happy to field that as well. More people coming in, wonderful. I'll go ahead and get started then. So APA topics, in-text citations. So just a quick talk for tonight. Couple small things as we, wonderful. So just some quick information about us. Academic Support Center, if you haven't visited us already, we're on the first floor of Phillips Library. So you enter through the front door of the library, you turn right before you get to the main desk, you turn right again before you get to the stairwell, and we are there on the right. There's a little sign that says Academic Support Center. In other words, if you find this door in this picture, congratulations, you found us. We're available 7 days a week. We used to run Monday through Saturday. We've recently, in recent years, added Sunday to our available days. So the times you see on the left here are accurate as of the semester. Since most of you are in the meeting currently, you've already made an account with us through WC Online, so you're able to view the schedule and make an appointment. I'll be clicking the links throughout if you like. There we go, wonderful, okay. So hopefully this looks familiar. So making an appointment is as simple as, again, clicking on a blank space, again, a white space to be particular, and then just inputting exactly what you want to be tutored for, whether that's writing, whether that's a math or something like that. Obviously, we're focusing on writing related stuff today. And by default, it gives you the writing list of tutors. So just make sure that your settings are adjusted appropriately to writing and academic coaching if it's writing stuff specifically. So we're making a bigger push toward in-person appointments, although we are still offering remote appointments via Zoom. So, and then obviously you have the option to make either. So just make sure you indicate your preference and remember that before the appointment begins. Again, just quick recap, you find the store, you have found us. Wonderful, okay. The link below takes you to the Academic Support Center homepage. So this is our landing page that directs you to other academic support related resources. We'll be taking a look at the citing sources that you can see on the bottom left corner of this screen cap that I have here. Again, the link below takes you specifically to this page right here. I keep trying to do a control click, but I think it's just a regular click. Wonderful, okay. So yeah, some slide updates. But again, yeah, just contact information, scheduling a tutoring appointment. So this takes you to the schedule that we just looked at as a heads up. We'll be taking a look at this thing down here as well. And we've got a social media presence. We're also recording tonight's talk, and that'll go on YouTube within the next few days, by the end of the week, ideally, once we get that all nice and captioned. So just a quick primer to APA, short for American Psychological Association. It's the quite unarguably the most frequent citation style that you'll be using during your time here in college. It's used across psychology, definitely, but also the social sciences, and variations of it are used across the hard sciences as well. So it's like the ACS, like the chemistry style, has its own unique approach that shares some similarities with Chicago style, but a lot of things are very similar to APA, especially as you write, especially as you're writing papers for the humanities. The opposite of the humanities, my apologies. So some reasons we use APA, some key differences from MLA is that MLA, you may be familiar with taking in high school English, because that's primarily where you do most of your writing before college is in English classes. So you're using MLA. Some key differences then the humanities, we tend to emphasize the text a bit more. So that's why we cite name and page number typically. If we don't have a page number, then we just emphasize the name of the author or the name of the source if there is no author name in MLA. For APA, one thing that we front load is the date that a source was published. So he knows, okay, can't see the windows under hits links. I will keep that in mind. Thank you very much. So with APA, we emphasize the date that a source was published. That helps us to create ethos as researchers. Sliding ahead. So recently, APA shifted from the 6th to the 7th edition, and there are a few slight changes that took place. For the past year, so we had this sort of liminal phase where, again, different instructors, different classes were using sometimes both, sometimes one or the other. Some are still pretty familiar with the 6th edition. Others were making the push toward the 7th. So we've been in this mode for almost 2 years now. So again, most APA papers you're writing are going to be done in 7th edition. So most of the changes are slight ones just made to formatting. We'll take a look in a little bit at what that specifically looks like. I might be able to adjust something. I'm going to adjust something really quick just regarding because people are saying that we're not able to see the basically the web links that I'm sharing. So let me just make sure that's recording. Record video screen sharing. We'll see if that makes a difference. And if not, we'll figure something out. Or at the very least, I can just share the links at the end of the presentation. So most of the changes are slight ones from 7 to 6 regarding formatting, regarding the references page. A question we often get is, again, do I need a running head for 7th edition? And the answer is no. If you're writing a student paper, if you're submitting something for publication in an academic journal, then yeah, you're going to want the running head. So just the all caps title of the paper in the right-hand corner. We also remove little things, just extraneous details like the retrieval, like the retrieve from when you're putting the link to an online source in your reference page. The full list of changes can be found here at this link. And if we're not able to see it, I can always drop it in the chat. Do let me know in the chat if we're able to see this. If you have to stop screen sharing, then share the link if you appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. It's going to give you a PDF. That's why. Okay, wonderful. We can all see this. We're good. So yeah, the major changes are detailed here in this PDF. We'll cover a few of the, again, key ones that are going to affect most of the day-to-day nature of what we, excuse me, what we cover. Let me jump back to the, no, cannot see. Okay, 1 second. Oh, here we go. So I just need to share my whole screen. My apologies. Okay, it's been a while. Here we go. So full screen. Are we good?
Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Okay. My apologies. It's been a while getting reacclimated to Zoom stuff. I appreciate the patience, guys. Thank you so much. Good, good. Looking at the chat. Wonderful. Okay. So we'll keep that in mind. I'll just jostle through this way. My head's set to the PowerPoint, that's why. But I'm glad we're looking at this right now. So notable changes are detailed in this PDF right here at the last link we clicked on. The other links too that we missed over, I'd be happy to show those once we get a chance. So back to the slideshow really quickly. So some key points with APA. This is also going to be helpful for other citation styles that we're using, whether it's your MLA or something in the hard sciences, whether it's history even, not a hard science, but you'll be using like Chicago style for that. Some key things to remember though, regardless of, again, specific questions you have about citation and whatever you do, be consistent as far as applying conventions, whatever you do to one citation or to one entry in your reference page, make sure that you're doing it to all the others. Be honest. So oftentimes you'll run into situations where you don't have something like a page number or like an author who clearly wrote the source. Sometimes you're defaulting to the name of the organization for the author. Be honest with whatever information is available to you, and we'll detail a few scenarios of what to do if we're missing pieces of information. And then finally, use resources. There's never going to be a situation on like a college test or something where you'll be expected to remember all of this. So make use of us as a as an academic support facility. Make use of resources online such as Purdue OWL, such as the links that will be going over here. Now that I know that I can share them, we'll be able to take a more in-depth look at those, plus the ones we missed over. I saw something in the chat about, can we share those? Yes, definitely. So yeah, just be consistent, be honest, and make use of the resources that are available to you. Excuse me. So just a couple small things, and we'll take a look at these links at the bottom right here that detail the writing toolkit that we have online. There's a link from it on our website. So generally, as far as like font size and type goes, it's going to typically be the first two. The last three, Georgia 11, Arial 11, and Lucida Sans Unicode. All usable, but typically you're going to be asked to use either Times New Roman 12 or Calibri 11, and they both equal about the same size-ish. So this first link right here, let me know if it pops up. So we get here from the Academic Support Center homepage. This is one of the pages we had looked at earlier, if we are able to see this. So we get here from clicking Citing Sources, and that takes us to this page right here, the landing page for the writing toolkit that we have. So it's gone through a few updates in recent years, and we've gone ahead and front-loaded the APA materials because that's usually what students tend to have questions about. So some of what we have here, and this is, excuse me, and this is one of the other links that we have on the same slide, is the APA template. So if you click on it, it asks you if you want to download a Word document, click OK, it's a safe file. We can all see this good. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Terrific, thank you. Making sure. So click Enable Editing because it starts you off in protected view. It's going to shift to read only. You can save this to your device and have it on, retainer for anytime you need to write an APA document. Definitely would be wise to do so because it is quite literally what it says it is, a template for APA. So some things I had mentioned previously, we used to require running head for APA 6th edition and earlier ones as well. It would just be the all caps title of your paper in the top left-hand corner. That is no longer needed in APA 7th edition. All you need is the page number in the top right-hand corner. MLA asks that you put your name last name as well. So for me, Murado 1, for instance. Excuse me, just the number for APA. Other small things too. So again, specific layout for the cover page. So page 1 is devoted specifically to just the identifying information about your paper. Its name in bold, extra little space between the rest of your name, the course number, the instructor's name, and then the date that you are submitting this assignment, usually the due date unless you get it in early or something like that. All double spaced, and that's all taken care of for you as far as the formatting goes. So it's just a matter of plugging and playing. So definitely make use of the template that we have online. It'll take out a lot of the guesswork of where things go on the page and just kind of the hassle aspects of writing papers that we tend to, I think, reserve for the last minute. This is followed by, excuse me, unless you're asked specifically not to include one, your cover page will usually be followed by an abstract, which is a concise summary of everything that's going to be in your paper. I think it helps to think of an abstract as the shortest possible version of your paper that can exist. So usually around 5 sentences, 150 to 250 words, just to give you a sort of ballpark of how long this type of thing is. So again, summary of just kind of, again, the specific topic you're writing about, the specific question you're trying to answer, problem you're trying to solve, your thesis statement, what your answer or solution to that question or problem is, some details on research you did, how you gathered your methods, how you demonstrate your argument, and then conclusion, just things that you found interesting that emerged from the data, implications for future practice, research. So yeah, generally 5 sentences or so detailing that. So again, the shortest possible version of your paper if you want to think of it that way. And then on page 3, the paper proper begins. So just some small things about formatting. This is all kind of just general filler text if you want to think of it that way. So introduction heading is going to be the full title of your paper as it appears on the title page. So unless you're asked specifically to do so, which is actually very rare, don't put like introduction or something like that. It's kind of taken as a given that this is the introduction because it is the first paragraph of the paper proper. So so bold, center aligned title of your paper, major words capitalized. So conjunctions like and, prepositions and articles like a and respectively can be lowercase. And then yeah, obviously you would do the introduction here, which is kind of an expanded version of the abstract a little bit if you want to think of it that way. As far as section headings, we don't get too in depth with the template, although there are up to 5, which a site like Purdue Owl would detail in more specifics. But typically, for most papers you'll be writing for college, you'll be dealing with 2 levels of headings. So major headings, so think in terms of like broad topics. So I don't know, Shakespeare's poetry, if you want to think of it that way, could be an example of a first level heading, bold, center aligned. Whereas something like a more specific genre of poetry, so like a sonnet or his sonnets or something like that, or the 2 longer poems he wrote might occupy something like a second level heading, which is bold, capitalized, but aligned left as opposed to aligned center. So again, topics, major topics, I should say, bold, center aligned. Subtopics underneath that are going to be bold, but left aligned. And then, yeah, we also detail a few things too, just examples of common tropes, I suppose, that you'll encounter while writing research papers. So block quotes, so in APA, that's any quote that's 40 or more words. And we outline exactly how to indent that, so the whole thing gets indented a half inch. It's kind of like its own little paragraph. But yeah, we do that automatically here. So if you need to make a block quote and you're writing this in the template, it's as simple as copy pasting the block quote right here. And then it's just a matter of just pasting it again. And it saves the formatting when you do the default copy paste. So, and then obviously if you want to, you can just write your own text over it and it'll preserve that formatting. So again, the template's just meant to cut down a lot of the guesswork, a lot of the hassle of, what specific settings in Word do I go into to make this specific thing happen. So again, do save a copy of the template, do make use of it. And then, yeah, we outline just kind of an example reference page down here. But so again, references an AP similar to MLA in that you've got a hanging indent. So the first line gets indented, and then each line, I have it inverted. So the first line is left aligned, and then each line after that is indented 1/2 inch. So again, if you copy paste that, or if you just want to paste your own citations over that, it'll preserve the formatting, so it just saves the trouble of having to figure out the tabs and all that. And there's actually a way to do that kind of easily. So it's under paragraph. If you right click, and then you just go to special, and you set this. By default, it's usually set to none. We just set it to hanging, and then we click 0.5 right here, and then click OK. And obviously it's like that right here because this is hanging. If I go somewhere else on the page, then it's going to revert back to just regular formatting. Here we are. So yeah, none. So again, make use of the template, make use of the resources available to you, just harkening back to our third point. Excuse me. So yeah, this link right here takes you to the toolkit. The one below is the template that we looked at. It'll just start downloading as a PDF, just as a heads up. Couple of notes about quoting in a paper. So just a few examples of some direct quotes, a few paraphrases, some examples of plagiarism that we might like to be strategic about and avoid, obviously. So there's a couple of ways of handling direct quotes in APA. For direct quotes, we're going to need 3 pieces of information: the last name of the author, the year that the source was published, and then its specific location within the document. So a page number or a paragraph number if we're citing from like an online source and we've got to count down paragraph 1, 2, 3, and so on. Here we have a couple ways of negotiating, structuring that specifically. So if the name of the author is in the sentence, usually as a subject, then as we can see right here with Krug suggests, the year is always going to follow the author's name. So if the name's appearing in the sentence somewhere, year immediately follows that, regardless of the rest of the sentence and how it's structured. And then the page number location within the text, paragraph, whatever that happens to be, is always going to be at the end of the sentence, as we see in both of these examples. So that second one, that should be 2, not 1. So the second one, again, we don't have the author name mentioned in the sentence, but we still have the full quote. So we credit each of these 3 pieces of information: Krug 2014, page 32. And then, of course, I've gone ahead and included the full APA citation down here at the bottom of the paper. So that's what would go in the reference page. Book citations are pretty straightforward. We'll take a look at a few more examples by the end of the talk. So direct quotes, 3 pieces of information: name, year, page number. So paraphrasing, obviously, we can put something in our own words, but we still want to be clear. Whether it's an idea that's coming from another source. If that's the case, then we still need to cite appropriately. You don't need to include a page number when you are paraphrasing. It's a nice courtesy to your reader, but if you're paraphrasing, just name and year are quite all right. So at the top, we have the original quote: innovate when you know you have a better idea, take advantage of conventions when you don't. Acceptable paraphrase for this might be what we have under acceptable. Obviously, taking risks and being creative can yield great results if a content creator knows what they are doing and lacks an easy traditional solution to a problem. It's maybe not the most elegant rephrasing of the original quote, but it does well in conveying the same ideas while rephrasing most of the major words, nouns. It also changes the structure of the sentence. So instead of this 2-part sentence separated by a conjunction and comma, everything's a pretty long, straightforward sentence. Straightforward but long, I suppose. Interesting. A more questionable rendering of this sentence, original sentence, that could be construed as plagiarism, even if it is credited properly, name, year at the end, is this last one that's labeled not acceptable. Content creators should innovate. So we've got, again, sentence structure, and also verbs being carried over wholesale in some cases from the original. So innovate, verb, conventions becomes conventional, so not a huge change. It's still kind of close to the original. And the structure of the sentence too is kept. So two-part, separated by a conjunction and comma. So that last one that's not acceptable, we would want to be careful about that and work strategically to rephrase it into something that is, again, completely a rephrase, while of course still crediting the original author. So do be aware of sentence structure as well as wording when we are paraphrasing. A few situations where we might not have pieces of information. So like I said, it's important to be honest about the types of information that's available to us. Obviously, if we're not clear about something, whether that's a name or something like that, we don't make something up, obviously. But we work with what a source gives us and we make adjustments based on that. APA style anticipates these types of situations will arrive and offers specific solutions to negotiating that. So
black bag.
So
okay.
Often one situation we run into is there not being an author name. That usually happens in the case of web pages, as well as sites offered by sites or reports authored by organizations, government sources, that type of thing. So typically for,
you wanna do me a favor?
Can we please mute our mics? Thank you very much. So if no author's name for a web page, usually what we do is we just use the title of the page itself. So this example that I have right here, let me know if it pops up. If do indicate so in the chat. So the site that I'm using for my dissertation, at least the proposal, if it works its way into the actual project, then that'd be helpful for sure. So this page right here, it's actually part of a larger series of, it's kind of part of a larger essay paper, if you want to think of it that way. But if I wanted to cite just this web page, it is its own self-contained little unit. I'm sliding through, I don't see a specific author name. So what I do is I look for cues that will tell me about that will reveal the title of the specific page. Introduction seems likely. We also have this thing, folklore on the internet. So we've got a couple leads. I'm not immediately clear on what to click. So if you're ever unclear, best thing I can recommend is slide your mouse up to the tab on top of the screen right here. So I'll let the tab hover there for a quick second and you get this little box that gives you the full name of the website. Sometimes you get other stuff in there like a dash followed by the name of the whole web page again, or the publisher. We don't need the publisher information for the title when we are determining the name for the source. Simply comes before that dash is fine. And obviously it gives us a pretty straightforward answer to what the name of this webpage is, folklore and urban myth on the internet. Do format it as it gives it to you. And then the citation that we generate is right here. So you should follow this. So according to, and then in lieu of an author name, full title of the page, folklore and urban myth on the internet. Like I say, the 2014 should pop up right after that. And then what I'm doing in lieu of a page number, since this is a web page source and we don't have page, it's just a big web text that you're scrolling through. In lieu of that, I use a paragraph number. So this specific quote comes from the second paragraph. So just PARA dot and then 2 is fine. And then yeah, full citation at the end if we're saving everything for the last part of the citation. So folklore, comma, 2014, comma, paragraph 2. And then the thing you have at the bottom is what the full APA reference citation will look like once you get to the reference page of the paper. So that's what this would look like. Web page citations for the references, this might pop up on a later slide too, are pretty straightforward in that you often have the least amount of information to work with for those sources. Books are pretty brief too. But for websites with no author name, it's just kind of those 3 pieces. So name of the page, followed by the year, followed by the link. We'll take a look at some pro tips too, and the significance of including web sites as opposed to just simply the pages. So yeah, no named author, again, especially for web pages, we're going to default to the just general web pages. Typically, we're going to default to the name of the site. Rules will change a little bit when we're dealing with government authored reports, and those are going to look very different from web pages. They'll typically be formatted as PDFs that you can download from government sites, organizational sites, that sort of thing. APA treats these as different from general websites. So instead of citing the title of the work itself as the author position, if we want to think of it that way, we're going to treat the corporation or the government entity as the author of the source, as we do here with the Government Accountability Office source. So yeah, really straightforward. Obviously, we have a pretty solid paraphrase of what this piece of information was. So again, with the paraphrase, if you want to include a page or paragraph number, specific location within the text, that's a very nice courtesy. You are more than welcome to do so. But it's also not needed if you've got name and year, you're doing quite all right. Just make sure that, of course, when you're paraphrasing, you're relaying the same idea while making changes to keywords, especially those nouns, especially those verbs, and sentence structure as well. And a couple small things about the full APA citation that is here at the bottom. So obviously full name of the organization. I'm using the abbreviation right here, and that's sort of under the assumption that I've used the full name elsewhere earlier in the paper. So if you got phrases, names that are usually abbreviated or have initials, always make sure that you write the full name of the organization or whatever that happens to be first. That'll be immediately followed then by the abbreviation in parentheses, and then you're free to use the abbreviation for the rest of the paper, no questions asked. We repeat the same or similar sort of convention when we do the reference page. So full name of the organization, followed by, we use square brackets here in the reference at the end, just so that's not getting confused with the round parentheses that are enclosed around the year in the citation. So full name, abbreviation, square brackets, followed by year, followed by the name of the document or the report that we're citing. And then yeah, just the link in this case. So we don't necessarily need publisher here because the publisher is also the author in this case. So we've kind of killed those two birds with one stone, if you want to think of it that way. And then clicking on this link takes us to this specific page right here. You're seeing nothing because it's gonna make you download this. So you just click that file and it's the document itself. Terrific, okay. Excuse me. And then we've kind of talked about this a little bit on other slides, but I think, again, refreshers are always helpful. So often, especially when you're dealing with web pages, again, big web text, everything's kind of just one big page. You're not going to have page numbers to work with, so you are strongly recommended to use paragraph numbers. Sometimes you run into documents that are very long, that are broken up by sections. So one common convention, again, keep in mind that the key thing is to stay consistent with whatever conventions you are using, is to, in addition to paragraphs, if something has a lot of sections, you can use sections to help orient your reader. This also saves you the trouble of having to count up to, like, I don't know, 50 paragraphs or something like that in a paper. So this other article right here, Attaining the Ninth Square. So we've got our author, Michelle Manavanen, 2012, subject of the sentence, so we include the year early on in the citation, immediately after her name, keep that in mind. It's a big article, but she provides us with section headings to orient us. One section is titled At First. So we work down in levels of specificity when we're doing the page number or location, so to speak. So at first, so whatever the name of the section is, we put that in quotation marks, and then we follow that up with just the word section by itself, lowercase, to communicate to the reader that this is the name of a section within the paper, followed by a comma, and then followed by the paragraph that follows it. So it's the first paragraph under this at first section. So the paragraph count resets then once you begin a new section. So again, it helps orient your reader when they cross-reference your work, and it also saves you the trouble of having to count out, absurd amounts of paragraphs if that's just the nature of the document. So no page number, paragraphs are going to be your best friend, and having to use sections to orient the reader. It's a pretty rare circumstance, but it's helpful to keep in mind. So do use it if the opportunity arises. Your readers will thank you, and you will thank yourself as well. And then, yeah, just pretty standard reference citation for a web page in this case. So it's an article, but it's formatted as a web page. We can take a quick look, that's fine. Information. But in any event, yeah, just our usual conventions. So author name first, followed by big page is taking its time. So it's this thing right here. So academic article, but it's formatted in this kind of quasi-journal website type of format. But given the format, given that it's not like a journal publication, like an issue or something like volume, issue number, all that stuff. Again, we format it like a website. So name followed by date, followed by name of the web page in this case, which happens to be what is in the tab on top of the screen, and then the link. Enculturation is the name of the website, but it's contained within the URL, so we don't have to have it twice if we don't want to. We can be concise. Just one example of a little pro tip. We'll take a look at a few of those as the talk winds down. Less common, but very likely that you'll run into are multimedia sources. So think things like images, videos. You'll have to do, since you're completely out of the realm of page numbers and section breaks and all of that, you'll need to do specific things depending on the medium to help orient your reader and effectively document your work. So typically the names of the artist or the uploader or whoever created the piece or is curating it along with the date are typically all that you need. As far as like page numbers goes, like I say, use cues from the text based on what you're citing to contextualize where and when things are happening, especially as you're citing. The example I have below is from a YouTube video, sort of game review and analysis channel. So the quote we have here uses the specific time cue around the 14-minute mark. The author of this video, the creator, George Weidman, also known as Super Bunny Hop, makes this specific claim about Susan Sontag theory about campy media. So yeah, we have the author name, we have the year immediately after that, and then obviously we move the page number, just 14-minute mark. So you're more than free to do that type of thing to orient your reader when you are citing something like a video, or if you're citing an image or something like that, a painting, a picture, a meme. Again, describing the image to the best of your ability. Also, screenshotting it in your paper could be helpful as well. Name and year are the key things. And then, yeah, the full citation right here. So YouTube ones are always a little bit tricky. It's not always common that you cite them, but there's a pretty good chance you might, just the nature of how the world is moving and whatnot. So if we know the real name of the original poster, we default to that. So George Weidman happens to be Super Bunny Hop. So real name first, and then in square brackets, we can use their username. If all we have is a username, then just use the username. And in that case, it wouldn't need to be in square brackets. Usually a year is appropriate enough for citation, but if we have the specific date that something was created, uploaded, you're more than welcome to use that as well. Just make sure that you can point to that information somewhere. So year, and then that's followed by comma, and then month, day. Title of the work. For multimedia sources, we use square brackets and then just indicate the medium, so video, film, whatever that happens to be. Digital image, excuse me. And then the link, of course, when anytime we're dealing with online sources. And keep in mind too, the publisher is always contained within the link, so we can include the publisher again before the link, but there's really not a need to if it's already in the link. So just a few small details. Reference page we looked at briefly when we took a look at the template, and we talked a little bit about hanging indent. And I kind of walked you through the process of setting that up manually. So by right-clicking, going to paragraph settings, and then making sure that hanging is set to So yeah, just another quick little refresher. If for any reason you're in a pinch and you need to do this manually, so right click, paragraph. Special, we just set that to hanging, 0.5. 0.5 is the default. If it gives you something else that's a little bit strange, but just make sure it's 0.5. And then you're good. And then it automatically takes care of the rest. So if you're ever in a pinch and you need to do that, that will be the procedure. And then just other things too. Your references are going to be double spaced throughout. You don't have to put extra spaces between them. So just another quick little check right here. So double spacing like that. So don't go and hit enter like that. No need. So everything's just going to be double spaced. The whole paper itself is going to be just double spaced generally. So don't feel compelled to add extra spaces between things unless you're specifically asked to do so. And then finally, citations are listed in alphabetical order. Again, whatever letter is popping up first, keep in mind that numbers and symbols will come before letters if that happens to be the case. And that occasionally happens if you're citing kind of obscure web pages, that sort of thing. A couple of pro tips as we're winding down the talk, and then I'll be happy to share in the chat any links that we may have missed. So you can abbreviate a lot of phrases on your reference page, including but not limited to what is displayed here. So often if you're citing from, books authored by university presses, you'll see, university press or like university of whatever in this case, department of if you're working with government sources, even roles that various author positions, creators play, editors, translators. These are all appropriate abbreviations for that. So university press can just become UP. So I don't know, Aurora University, Aurora UP. If we, were to author a book or something like that, it would just become that specifically. And that'll be understood. Again, you're free to use that convention. You're also free to not use it, but whatever you choose, make sure you stay consistent. So if you're going to write out university press every time, you are more than welcome to do so. Just make sure that you do it for every instance of university press, as well as the rest of these as well. And then we've got a little before and after here with this Mikhail Bakhtin book right here. And there are a couple things we can play with. So the editor, edited by just becomes ed. There's multiple editors, but because it's more than two in this case, we can shorten that to et al, which is just a Latin phrase that means and others. So we just have the first one, and then we just go with et al. And then University of Texas Press just becomes U of Texas P in this case. So again, as you get more comfortable with the citation style, definitely feel free to use these, play around with them. But as you're getting used to it, again, definitely feel free to take things slow as well. No worries at all. As long as you are consistent, just keeping in mind our various rules, be consistent, be honest, and make use of resources. Couple other small pro tips too, and some of these were discussed briefly. So like I mentioned before, organization names should be written out in full the first time they appear in the paper, followed immediately by the initials in parentheses if it's in the text of the essay, or brackets if it's at the very end. So in text, excuse me, same rule applies to citations. So see APA, that should actually bleed in with American Psychological Association, followed by APA in parentheses, my apologies. And the same thing in the reference page that was discussed earlier. So full name of the organization, followed by square brackets, and then the initials. And then like I mentioned a few times earlier on, just to emphasize, web pages should have the, again, what page sources have the publisher in the URL already. It's sort of an implied. So it's not wrong to have it twice, as we see in the for example right here, if you want to be super official about that. But it's also fine if we abbreviate that and just save the trouble of having to read that twice, having to write it twice as well. Again, you are free to choose whichever as long as you stay consistent. And that brings us to the end of the talk. Any questions, feel free to direct to the chat. I can go ahead and answer them. For the time being, I'll go ahead and cycle through and make sure I track down all of these. When to use et al in the body of the paper. So et al will be used if you have So I can drop this in the chat as well, just so everybody sees it. So just so that it persists somewhere, and feel free to save this. So for et al, again, lots of things are coming in very quickly. That's okay. So et al is used if you have 3 or more authors in a source. That's when you'll use it in text. So if you have 2 authors, you'll list their names each time. So I don't know, Johnson and Johnson, just to give an example. So like literally each time Johnson and Johnson is going to be, I'll use the ampersand as well, and this will pop up in the chat. And then we'll just drop in, I don't know, like the current year, I suppose, 2021. Let's say that's when they wrote their source. 2012, 2021. That's what I want. I could do this in Word or something like that. That'll be, hold up. So if we have 3 or more authors, let's say it's Johnson and Johnson and Johnson for some reason, 3 or more authors, then we use the et al. To abbreviate. So originally in 6th edition, we used to have to write out all the authors the first time up to 6, and then we could start using et al. But for 7th edition, things are simplified. We use the et al. For the first one and for each time. So 3 or more authors will be the specific situation where that happens. Other things. And then, yeah, if there's other questions about et al, do feel free to let me know. Am I able to share the PowerPoint link? Yes, I could do that. So yeah, let me actually do this. What I can do is I can upload it as a Google, not a Google Doc, because it's not called a Google Doc. I can upload it as a Google Slides and share the link in a little bit. That would be fine. Worst case scenario, that could go out through an email. But yeah, I'd be happy to share the PowerPoint just so that this persists. Somewhere this will also be uploaded to YouTube, so it'll persist in a few places as well. But yeah, I'd be happy to share the Google Slides with that once I have that saved up. So PowerPoint link, yes, I can definitely do. What if there is no date in your source? That's a very good question. So for no date, we just use N period D period as an abbreviation for that. So I don't know, let's say our friends Johnson et al. Don't list a publication date. That happens a lot on websites. Keep in mind too that on websites you'll often see, just to jump to one specifically, so often at the bottom of the page you'll have something like, I don't know if this one has it, but most of them do. You'll have something like a copyright, 2020. Usually it's the current year. This one doesn't have it, but that's pretty part and parcel with most websites. So the copyright date is just when the copyright for the whole website was renewed. Don't worry about that. Look for something closer to the top of the page. But if we don't have a date, then we just go N period D period for no date. And that's fine. That just ties back to our APA, just general citation rules about being honest. So if we don't have a year, perfectly fine to say there's no date if that's true. So N.D. is going to be our answer if there's no date for a source. Taking this for junior mentoring, how do you prove you were here? So in the chat, go ahead and drop an instructor name with an email, and I'll be happy to relay to them that you attended. So yeah, feel free to drop it in the chat. So instructor name followed by the email, and we'll let them know. How do I get proof that I was here? For multiple teachers, same thing, just provide the emails and names, emails. I'll happily get in touch with them. Thanks.
FYI, Augie, I
Yes,
believe, attendance is automatically recorded when you enter the Zoom room. So I know Julie will be getting all of that. I would check with her. She might actually be providing that to the instructors who are requiring it.
Appreciate that, Tony. Thank you. Gotcha. So same drill too. If you're feeling either way, I'll be happy to take an email and personally let your instructor know that yes, you were here for junior mentoring or class purposes, whatever that may happen to be. Thank you very much. If you want to hang out and do that, definitely feel free to do so, just so that we have that information persisting somewhere, and so that there's no risk of anybody getting left behind, I suppose. Thank you very much. Any additional questions while that's happening? And then if we're good and we've got what we needed, then thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being patient as we've the links, right? The links, then I'll be sharing the PowerPoint as well. I can send that out in a mass email, not a big deal. So you'll be able to see that as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patience and have a good evening.
Bye. Thank you so much.